Welcome back to another fantasy fight. This time we're going to take a look at the top 10 heavyweights of the 1960s. A tremendous decade that saw some of the greatest fighters in heavyweight history. Unfortunately, left off the top 10 list are going to be great fighters like Doug Jones, George Chuvalo, Carl Miltenberg, Oscar Bonavena, Leotis Martin, and I could go on and on. But I think you'll agree that these were some really worthy candidates that we're going to look at. Hope you enjoy it. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Coming in at number 10, Cleveland Williams from Houston, Texas. 82-13-2 was his record. 6'3", 215. Ranked number 4 in 1963 by Ring Magazine. He had a 10-round draw against Eddie Mason in 62, and he defeated Ernie Terrell in a 7th-round knockout, also in 1962. Here he is in action against Sonny Liston. A lot of fighters tried to avoid punching and exchanging punches with Sonny Liston, not Cleveland Williams. He goes right at him. The heavyweight champion Floyd Patterson wanted no part of Cleveland Williams. The top contenders didn't. Liston was the only one brave enough to fight him. Remember, this is not the same fighter that fought Muhammad Ali later in the decade. He was shot by a Houston policeman in 1964, and most of those losses on his resume all occurred following this tragic event. He lost something like 90 pounds and almost died. But here he is, you see, going after Sonny Liston. He was a very aggressive fighter, outstanding heavyweight. Coming in at number 9, Jerry Quarry, the Bellflower Bomber. Bellflower, California, 53-9-4, 6'1", 194. Number 3 by the Ring Magazine in 1969. Came to fame with his 1967 victory over Floyd Patterson. Here he is in action against Joe Frazier in 69. He was named Fight of the Year, and it was for the New York version of the heavyweight title. Quarry did not back down. Could take a great punch, fast hands. A lot of people disrespected Jerry Quarry. I'm not one of them. I thought he was an outstanding fighter. In any other period of time, he would have been a cruiserweight champion. Tremendous fighter for his size. At number 8 is Eddie Mason. 50-11-3. 6 foot, 194, 75-inch reach from San Francisco. He was the number 2 contender in the world, according to Ring Magazine, in 1961. And he fought a great fight against Sonny Liston in 1960, losing a 12-round decision. He was the only person to go the distance against Liston in his prime. He also defeated Doug Jones in a 10-round decision and Jerry Quarry over 10 rounds in 1966. Here he is against Sonny Liston in their 1960 battle. He was a very cagey fighter, stayed on the move, and he's one of the few fighters also that was ranked in our top 10 of the 1950s and 1960s. Just a real smart, heady boxer. Unfortunately, he was not given a whole lot of opportunities to fight for the title. Here he is against Floyd Patterson in 1964, the long-awaited match between these two great fighters. Unfortunately for Mason, Patterson had lost the title in 1962, so this fight was not for the title. At number 7 is Zoro Foley, another fighter that made our top 10 from the 1950s. From Chandler, Arizona, 79-11-6, 6'1", 194, 77-inch reach. He was number 3 contender, according to Ring Magazine, in 1961. Had a great career. Here he is against Oscar Bonavena, one of the top fighters of the 1960s from Argentina. He won a 10-round decision against Bonavena. Foley, as we talked about in the 1950s video, was just the ultimate boxer. He was always on balance, never took a lot of chances. He was not a knockout fighter, although he could put together some combinations. Won most of his fights on decision, lasted only 3 rounds against Sonny Liston, which really limited his opportunities as far as a title fight. He did fight Muhammad Ali well past his prime in 1967 and was knocked out, I believe it was in the 7th round. Zoro Foley, a really tough fighter from the 1960s. At number 6 is Jimmy Ellis of Louisville, Kentucky, 40-12-1, 6'1", 196, number 2 contender in 68 and 69. Became famous as Muhammad Ali's sparring partner, and then when Muhammad Ali went into exile, Jimmy Ellis stepped up and won the WBA title in the elimination tournament. He's a really strong boxer, had a number of skills, and had an outstanding trainer in Angelo Dundee. He usually fought very smart fights. He's a very smart fighter. Coming in at number 5 is Floyd Patterson, 55-8-1, the former heavyweight champion in the 50s, regained the title in 1960 against Ingemar Johansson. Lost the title to Sonny Liston in 1962, and then in 1965 lost a 12-round knockout loss to Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay. Patterson fought just about everybody in the 60s. He was very active, and as I said, he was also ranked in the top 10 in the 1950s in our video that we did earlier. Here he is in his fight against Ingemar Johansson when he regained the title in 1960. Quite a left hook. And then this next fight we're going to look at was a long-awaited matchup between Floyd Patterson and Eddie Mason, whose careers kind of paralleled each other, but they never fought. Unfortunately for Eddie Mason, Patterson had long since lost the title. It was a good fight. Patterson got a very close decision. These were two of the warriors of the 50s and 60s. Coming in at number 4 is Ernie Terrell, the WBA champion from 1965 to 1967. He was the number 1 contender according to the Ring magazine in 65 and 66. And I've got him ranked ahead of Floyd Patterson and some of these other heavyweights during the period. Number 4. Here he is against George Chuvalo. You can notice the piston-like jab. He was very active from 62 to 67. And Chuvalo was one of the top contenders. This was for the WBA championship, I believe, in 1965. And Terrell took home the decision. Great boxer, very good defensive fighter, tough to beat over 15 rounds. Number 3 is Smokin' Joe Frazier from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was 32-4, 5'11", 205. Top contender, according to Ring magazine, in 67, 68, and 69. But if you look at those years, those were the years that Muhammad Ali went into exile. Defeated Jerry Quarry in a 7th-round knockout in 1969 and Oscar Bonavena in 1968. Here he is in the fight that pretty much put him on the map against George Chuvalo. I believe this was in Madison Square Garden. I could be wrong on that. It was a 4th-round knockout for Smokin' Joe. And he was the first fighter to ever stop Chuvalo. If you remember, Chuvalo fought Ernie Terrell and Muhammad Ali, and neither one of them could stop him. So Frazier got everybody's attention by finally stopping him. We couldn't put him on the canvas, which nobody ever did, but he did win the fight. It was stopped. Smokin' Joe at number 3. He came on real late in the decade and was a dominant force. Number 2, Sonny Liston. 50-4 record, 6'1.5", 218. Held the heavyweight title from 1962 to 1964. Defeated Floyd Patterson twice in first-round knockouts. In 64, he's going to lose the title to Cassius Clay in a 7th-round TKO. Remember, the 1965 fight, in my opinion, was a fix. Liston threw the fight. He came back later in the decade and was one of the top heavyweights in the division. Most contenders avoided him like the plague. Here's his first round knockout against Floyd Patterson to win the title. Liston had a devastating jab, and I rank him among the best of all time. And I also rank him number 2 in the decade over Joe Frazier. I believe Frazier would have had a lot of trouble with Mr. Liston, much like he did George Foreman. Foreman and Liston had similar styles, with Liston probably being the superior boxer of the two. Liston could conform to just about any style. In his prime, he didn't lose a fight. Before we discuss the number 1 fighter of the decade, Muhammad Ali, please hit the like button and subscribe. And I'd love to hear your comments on who you feel like were the top fighters of the 1960s. Boxing was front page news in the sports page back in the 1960s and 70s, unlike today. Ali was one of the main reasons. It grew in popularity throughout his reign. You either loved him or you hated him. He won the title from Sonny Liston in 1964, had to relinquish the title in 1970. He was undefeated during the decade. He fought every major contender in the decade except for Joe Frazier, and that was when he was forced into exile because of his avoiding the military draft. I hope you continue to watch these fantasy fights. We'll have more fights on the 1970s and 1980s and 90s, the top 10 fighters. Please let me know if these are popular. If they are, I'll continue them. Thanks for watching.